So I'm a little late to the party here, but I wanted to take some time today to talk about the recently announced game from fellow YouTube creator Big Fry. If you're unfamiliar with Big Fry, his channel focuses mainly on FPS coverage with a particular affinity for tactical experiences. Fry has especially developed a reputation for his very vocal criticism of the state of modern AAA FPS, as well as calling out the shady practices plaguing Steam's early access FPS scene. I'll leave links below to the trailer for this new game, Transience, as well as the separate video he made discussing the current state of development on the title and the broad plan moving forward. While you're there, I highly encourage you to check out more of his content. So to start out with some of the things I really like here, Big Fry has assembled quite the group of talented, passionate developers that really seem to understand the vision for this game. Watching the trailer, I was especially impressed with the variety of environments shown off, and it's all wrapped up in this really gritty and grounded art direction. In recent years, FPS has in large part been really stuck in a more lighthearted design, with titles like Call of Duty and Battlefield even trying to get in on the popularity with Warzone's anime crossover bundles and Battlefield 2042's quirky specialists. I really love how Big Fry's game follows with titles like Ready or Not in establishing something far more mature. I don't really have a problem with the existence of lighter content, but I also appreciate having some extra choice. The dark, seedy art direction really pushes this mature feeling home, and its visual aesthetic is something that'll age really well. Along with some pretty impressive animations and attachment variety shown off, it's really looking like Transience will scratch the gritty tactical itch. Fry spent some time in his own video talking about the lack of multiplayer. While I think there will be a decent portion of the audience that'll be disappointed by this omission, I actually really think this decision is the right one. For one, implementing multiplayer from a technical perspective is a monolithic undertaking that expands the scope of the project massively, potentially overwhelming this small team. It's the kind of thing that can often sink games from small developers since it's so difficult to get right. On top of that, so many people out there just have an incredibly unrealistic expectation for content cadence with multiplayer games these days. Titles like Warzone, Apex, and Fortnite have created this standard of constant content backed by armies of developers. I'm happy to see that Transience isn't going to at all try to compete in that space right now. Biggest thing that makes me happy with this decision though is that there's just a huge lack of really fulfilling single-player FPS experiences these days. Many games release with no single-player mode at all, and of the ones that do have single-player, it's often incredibly short and shallow. Glad that this game might offer something to fill that void. So at this point, I've been pretty positive about the game. The reason is that I feel really optimistic about it. It'll be a solid product from a technical and gameplay perspective in my opinion. While Fry doesn't have a software engineering background, he seems to have a good eye for talent and a high quality standard. So from a purely gameplay and technical perspective, I feel pretty good about the game. The thing that makes me a little nervous is something a bit more creative. At the time of posting this video, the Steam page indicates that the game has a full story told over 8 missions and 7 environments, following a character named Eli Reed. Eli is what's referred to as an accountant, whose job is to keep the books balanced by any means necessary. I assume this means that accountants are essentially hitmen of some kind, but the details around why they're specifically called accountants and how that factors into keeping the books balanced are still unclear. Regardless, there's not much to go on at the moment. It's still really early days. I'm not saying this to take a shot at True Doom, the community member who, according to Fry's video, is the one primarily leading the narrative. However, being a single-player only game puts a lot more weight and pressure on the story and characters to keep your player interested, and I hope what we get here can amount to something more than simply an amalgamation of themes and elements from Tom Clancy novels. While I'm sure the primary focus right now is on the technical and visual sides of the game, I do hope True Doom has the support system he needs to properly workshop his writing. As someone who studied creative writing and film for years back in college, I know that the best work I or anyone I knew created was done so with constant, honest, and sometimes brutal feedback from other writers. Obviously, while too many cooks can be a problem, too few can allow things to slip through the cracks. Anyway, that does it for my early impressions of Transience. There's a link below to the Steam page to wishlist the game if you're interested. Let me know your thoughts on the trailer and your general feelings about content creators getting into the business side of gaming. You've seen it a lot more recently, and I'm fascinated at how it might change this industry. With that, leave a like or a dislike, and I'll see you all in the next video.